puts their families, puts everything on the line for people they've never met. It's so incredibly important that we're here today, and I couldn't think of a finer group of individuals to stand with. What you allow will continue. What you allow will continue. And right now, we are living in an upside-down world. We are living in a world where we are being told that everything we know and believe to be good is bad, and everything we know and believe to be bad is good. We have failed to hold criminals accountable for their actions, and it's unacceptable. As the congressman said, I walked away from an almost 25-year career in law enforcement. I stood shoulder to shoulder with the men and women of this city every day in service and in protection of innocent individuals. I stood with my men and women in those riots where the charges were dropped, as the congresswoman said. I stood with those men and women in those riots, watching rocks get thrown at us. I was hit by a kitchen cabinet that came off a roof. I had to cut officers' pants off because they were throwing incendiary devices at us. We chased down two people that threw a Molotov cocktail into a van with my officers inside. And most, if not all, of those charges were dropped. We are living in a society where our criminals are given more rights than victims, and it's unacceptable. 34 people under the Cuomo-Hochul administration, 34 criminals that took the lives of officers, and countless others, hundreds of others that were released for murder, for shooting, for rapes, savage and violent rapes, just to do it again. We are failing our innocent people. Now, the congressman and the congresswoman alluded to or spoke of Anthony Bottom, the political prisoner that was hailed a hero to speak to our youth at SUNY Brockport. I stood there in solidarity with the congressman outside, holding press conference after press conference, imploring the state-funded SUNY school not to honor this cop killer as a political prisoner, not to give him the stage to voice his jaded version of the story to our youth. And I had the ability to meet and embrace the officer's widow. Officer Piagentini wasn't killed immediately. Officer Waverly Jones was. Shot to the back of the head, dropped immediately. Officer Piagentini, and then he emptied his own revolver, Piagentini's own revolver, into him. Do you know who wasn't paroled? His widow. And as I held her in my arms and she cried because we were reopening scar after scar after scar, she was never paroled. That day lives in her mind as clear 20 years later as it was the day that she found out he was murdered. Never paroled. But 34 cop killers were in just 5 years. We are failing society. Government's number one job is to keep its people safe. And we are releasing individuals to re-offend and re-victimize, and we're doing it unapologetically. Governor Hochul is failing. She's failing, and she's hiding because she knows she's failing. She cannot confront the congressman for a debate because she's wrong on all the issues. She's hoping that what we allow will continue, and she just gets voted in because we're outnumbered. This is not a red wave. This is a common sense wave. Democrats, independents, Republicans, and people who have never voted before are standing up. Upstate, downstate, in the cities, out of cities, we are standing together. We are standing with law enforcement. We have to give our officers the funding and the resources to be able to do the job that we need them to do. Our cops are heroes, and they wear many hats. They can be rescuing a small child. They can be arresting a father for doing unspeakable crimes to his children. They could go to a motor vehicle accident and comfort a widow as she's watching her husband pass because of his injuries. And then they could be called to give their own lives in service and sacrifice to the people of the state of New York. And they do so willingly. We owe them better than to be releasing their killers back out onto the street. We owe them better than to champion anyone who would defund them and not give them the resources they need to do the job safely, wisely, and with compassion to all individuals. We see New Yorkers afraid. Hate crimes in the city alone are up way over 400 just year to date. And whether you're Jewish or black or Asian or LGBTQ, we stand with New Yorkers that are in fear, that are getting assaulted on the street for who they are or what they believe. It's unacceptable. And we shouldn't be releasing their killers. We must overhaul the parole board. We must bring safety and sanity back to the decision making, integrity back to the leadership in Albany. I love my job more than my next breath of air. And I never would have walked away if I didn't believe that Congressman Zeldin is the man that can do that and can represent all communities of the state of New York with integrity, and his running mate and partner in this endeavor. I am honored to stand by his side as we fight for the people of the state of New York and give voices back to the forgotten man and woman. It's time we all stand together. Thank you very much.